Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Well, it didn't take long for the Russians to again reiterate their steps they will have to be forced, they are forced or will be forced to take in case the Europeans, one, freeze the Russian assets. That means not steal, rob them of their assets in order to, that's not an okay, but whatever, in order to pay for the Ukraine war. And the other one, what the Russians will do and what will happen if the Europeans, again, think that they could implement a no-flight zone over Ukraine. This is what they want. That is, like they always want, I want to be able to punch you, but you cannot punch me. If you look at every war that NATO was in, and not only that, you can go even to Vietnam, where it was not about NATO. You can also go to the Korean War. You're going to find out we were so smart and courageous and strong. We always fought somewhere else so they don't come and hit us. And they could not hit us. Korean War, the Koreans, that happened on the Korean Peninsula. Vietnam in Indochina, not here. Then you got, if you want, and I'm going to give it to you, Yugoslavia, 1999. NATO bombarded them over there. They didn't do anything to us. We were all good. Then if you want Libya, the same. We hit Gaddafi. Gaddafi could not hit us. The same with Iraq. We hit them. They couldn't hit us. Afghanistan, Syria, Iran, Ukraine. So see, these guys always want to punch you. You can say, well, because they were smart, Emil. That's smart. Yeah, you can look at that way. You can look at it that way. But I would like you to look at this one. Let's say it is you. And let's say you're a strong guy. And you're a ballsy guy. And I hope you are. You hope you are watching what I'm saying here. And let's say you have a weasel in the neighborhood. And that weasel, you can smack the fuck out of that weasel. But the weasel has a big mouth and he does a lot of things to your wife. Okay, and you go and want to fight the weasel. And the weasel brings his cousins, his brothers, other neighbors, and they're like 30. And you're only one. Is he smart? Would you call that guy smart or a coward? Which one are you going to call him? Are you going to be you against 30? You're going to lose, most likely. So you're going to call that weasel coward or smart? I will call him smart because he did that, but he did it because he's a coward. So the same here with NATO. NATO is strong, but punches and doesn't want to be punched back. So that's the same thing that happens in Ukraine right now. And Medvedev says, you know what? We are going to punch you if NATO hits our drones or missiles over Ukraine, we're going to attack you in your countries. And we have the means. And the Europe takes a shit and say, oh my God, Trump, what should we do? And Trump says, well, do it. Why not? Why? Because we are going to come and reconstruct your country. So that's the first one. And the second one is the assets. If you remember, the Western, I don't even know how to call them, civilized West, seized Russian assets, froze them. That is, robbed them, not stole them. Steal is when you don't know about it. So someone without our knowledge. But they did it with the Russian knowledge. That's not stealing. That is, hey, give me your money. Or I have your money, I'm not going to give it you back. Right in plain view. So let me show you Medvedev's threats. And I would like you to make a distinction. I will make a distinction for you anyway, and you think about it. Right here. Reuters. This is from September 15th, 2025. Russia warns Europe, so the country of Russia, warns Europe, the continent. We, who's we? I, it, we, that's the Russians. We will go after any state which takes our assets. You're going to find out that Russia in this context is a person. And that is Medvedev, I think, isn't he? Russia on Monday warned it would go after any European state that sought to take its assets after reports that the European Union is looking for new ways to leverage hundreds of billions of dollars of frozen Russian assets to help Ukraine. You see what words they use here? So the Russians will go will go after, oh, that's bad, because the European Union is looking for new ways to leverage. They leverage, not spend someone else's money. Billions of dollars of frozen, not taken, assets to help. You see the words used? Help, frozen, leverage. Instead of saying to spend someone else's money that they took to give these guys with no merit. So what happens? The US and its allies prohibited transactions with the Russian Central Bank and Finance Ministry after Putin sent his army into Ukraine in 2022 and blocked 300 to 350 billion dollars of sovereign Russian assets. So remember, it was not the Russians who attacked the US or its allies. Ask Qatar how it is to be an ally with the US when you have Israel striking you. All right, so remember, these guys were the first ones hitting Russia. Russia was hitting Ukraine. Ukraine is not an ally of US or the allies. So who introduced themselves in the equation? These guys. So they cast the first stone. Mostly European, US and British government bonds held in European Security Depository. So what happened right here? Politico reported that the European Commission is mulling the idea of using Russian cash deposits at the European Central Bank from maturing bonds owned by Russia to fund reparations loan for Ukraine. They decided, the European Commission decided that the European Bank will do that, man, of someone else's money without being at war or anything. And I'm quoting right here. This is Medvedev. If this happens, this is the warning or threat, Russia will pursue the European Union states as well as European degenerates from Brussels and individual EU countries who tried to seize our property until the end of the century. All right? Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev. So when Dmitry Medvedev says that, is it Russia saying that or it's an individual? How much power Dmitry Medvedev has? And I'm going to give you an example. Russia will pursue European states, and I'm quoting, in all possible ways and in all possible international and national courts, as well as out of court, said Medvedev, who serves as deputy chairman of Russia Security Council. So he has no decision making. He chairs a council, Security Council in Russia. Now, if you think that that is what Russia says, when I make my videos here, I'm afraid sometimes to attach, let's say Medvedev said something and put in the title, Russia did this. Because it's not Russia. It's a guy in Russia working for the government. It's not Putin. As long as Putin says that, it has no value. Everyone else can say that. Lavrov can say it. Shoigu, who's gone, can say it. The other one, Gerasimov, the general, can say that. You can say it, but the ultimate decision comes to Putin. Unless Putin says it, you don't represent Russia. Medvedev does not represent Russia. Putin does. So when these guys make Russia makes a threat, it's Medvedev makes a threat or tells you what to do. But you should take that into consideration, I think. Now, what would you do if you are having a neighbor who you know he can smack you? I mean, you know, okay, he can smack you. And then he's telling you, while you go over there and do some hanky-panky in the neighborhood, he says, Gigi, listen to me. If you continue doing this, or if you do this, my next step will be straightening you out. That means a little smack. What would you do? We say, nah, you. Would you do that? First, you know that he can smack the shit out of you. And you know that nobody can protect you. It's not like to call the police or something. So you don't do it. That's a direct threat, warning, next step that I will do. That's a consequence of your actions. That you might say they're legitimate. You might call them legitimate. I can walk down your sidewalk if I want. Yeah, but if you walk on my sidewalk, or the sidewalk, it's not mine, it just happens to be in front of my property. If you walk on that sidewalk, I don't like it, I will smack you. What would you do? It's your right to walk on that sidewalk. It's not the Europeans' right to seize the assets. I'm not making that connection here. The connection here, the Europeans should take this warning very seriously, and they will not. They will not. So clearly, we're going to take care of you. And he says something not only to the end of the century, even more than that, my friends. I can't remember where the hell I wrote that, but it read that. But anyway, it says to the end of century, right here, until the end of the century. And he said, in all possible ways, it's possible to nuke you. In all possible international national courts, as well as out of courts, nuke. So the clear is clear what this guy is gonna do. Would you not? I didn't show you that. Would you not? Out of court, all possible ways, right? End of the century. Where is that? Pop, pop, pop. Until the end of the century. And not only, they will destroy you. What would you do? I think you should talk to the Russians. That's what you need to do. First, remember, you, and they have no problem saying that, you inserted yourself in something that you had no jurisdiction. You were not the policeman, you were not the judge. Nobody appointed you. Nobody voted for you to be one. And you harm Russia because you say so. Then the Russians say, well, you harm me, I will harm you. However you turn it, the Europeans, the West, as the Russians call it, the collective West, were the first ones who cast the stone against Russia. Now if you say, well, but the Russians, man, they invaded Ukraine. And my question is, okay, when? In 24th of February 2022. Okay, what happened before that? I'm guaranteeing you, you don't want to hear about it. Well, it's against our interest. Well, what you did earlier, it's against the Russians' interest. So if you go by the interest, let's say my interest is your wife. Let's say, is that legitimate interest? What would you do? Would you protect, or you say, hey, wife, if he wants you, what would you say? Well, I kind of want him too. What would you do? Okay, then, divorce, you go and fuck around. So the same here, if you go by the interest, I have many interests. I like the gold in the bank. Oh, very much. I like the gold in the bank. I mean, after all, I'm Jewish, am I not? Just kidding. Anyway, so we're going to go and take it just because it's my interest? Or we have some laws. So the laws are as they are. You don't topple a government, legitimate government, in Ukraine. You don't make a neutral country, Ukraine, into your NATO member state, joining a military alliance against what you signed, you too, in 1994 in the Budapest Memorandum. Neutral. You broke the neutrality. We entered. We went in. So wherever you turn, you're going to see the collective West pushing and pushing and pushing. And now they get a bloody nose and they all cry like a bitches. Okay, that's the first threat. Let's go to the second threat right here. Coming from the same GUI. The same GUI is right here. New Voice of Ukraine. Medvedev threatens NATO with war over drone shutdowns in Ukraine. So why? Now let me give you a little history. We passed the fact that these guys are at war, right? Call it however you want. Conflict, special military operation, war, they are killing one another, all right? Two countries are at war. Germany and Poland. Not Great Britain, not France, not the United States of America, nobody else. Just Poland and Germany. But the other two guys, which was France and Great Britain, had to enter themselves in, where they were, in an alliance with Poland. And they declared war to Germany. That's how the Second World War started. Not when a country attacked one country. That's not a world war. That's one country against one. When the other two countries declared war on one country, it became four. So who started the Second World War? You think about it. All right, so here we have the war in Ukraine, right? And the Russians send drones, the Ukrainians send drones. Now, NATO wants to hit those Russian drones over the territory of Ukraine. As I told you, I want to hit you far away. I don't want you to hit me. Very courageous, right? No, they're smart. Good. Yeah, they're smart. But weak in the same time. Weasels. So they want to hit them, but they don't want the Russians to hit them. But the Russian says, if you, collective West, shoot any of our assets, drones, missiles, airplanes, whatever flies that we send over Ukraine, we're going to attack you directly. Unlike Libya, Yugoslavia, Iraq, Afghanistan, and all these incapable, countries. We will because we can. And let me show you the threat or the consequence of your actions. And this is the bad dude right there. Let me see if I got it right. Okay. Dmitry Medvedev, deputy chair of the Russian Security Council, issues fresh threats of war against NATO on September 15, warning that any Western move to shoot down Russian drones over Ukraine would amount to direct conflict with the Kremlin. Goes without saying. I will explain. In a post on his Telegram channel, Medvedev claimed that granting NATO members permission to down Russian drones operating in Ukrainian airspace would mean, and I'm quoting, war between the alliance and Russia. Got it? The comments followed growing calls from Europe to stronger Western action against repeated Russian drones incursions. All right, Bundestag Defense Committee Chair Thomas Röwekamp urged NATO to begin intercepting Russian drones over Ukraine. Well, you do your thing, I'm doing my thing. 2 days later, Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski, he's not working for the Polish people, I think he's a foreign agent, proposed that NATO allies shoot down Russian drones and missiles flying through Ukraine airspace. Okay? So, it's clear? So when or if that happens, remember the neighbor told you not to walk on his side of the sidewalk. And you did. You can say nothing prevents me to do that. Now, let me give you this analogy. And I always give you with the neighbor because it's very easy. You fight a neighbor. Let's say you're the bad dude. All right? Which in this case, I don't think so. It's not the Ukrainians are the bad dudes. The Ukrainians are part of the bad dudes game. That's what it is. They're just used. With Zelensky stands in charge, with Ukrainians in charge. It makes me vomit. Anyway, so you have the guys, the neighbor, and you are in a fight. Let's don't disclose the reasons. Let's say it was my fault or their fault. It doesn't really matter at this point. The point is, other neighbors, when you fight the guy is shooting you, you shoot them, you try to win the fight, they are shooting your children. They are shooting your assets. They are protecting them. Aren't they your enemies? What would you do? I would shoot straight over there. I would take care of them because I can. So here is the threat, and here is the whole idea. They were pushing for this. If you want to know why they want a obvious no-flight zone over Ukraine, I would like you to study a little bit. You don't have to go too far to study what happened to Gaddafi. And Gaddafi lost mainly because his air force was not allowed by, guess who? By NATO, to fly over Libya, its own country, to defend the government. Or Gaddafi, however you want it. That was a direct consequence. These guys cannot come and bombard those guys because the defensive alliance of NATO from Europe, I have to remind you, Libya is an African country, all right? So not in Europe. So let me show you. Here it is. So just go and study that one. This is obviously the map of Europe. So here is NATO, right? And Libya is down south here. This is Libya right here. So these guys from Europe decided that Libya should not use their legitimate government, you like it or not, of Gaddafi. Tyrant, dictator is not less a dictator, and I would claim, than Prince Charles. Prince Charles is not elected, right? Gaddafi is or not. But anyway, the powers are not. Let's ignore that for now. It was the legitimate government recognized by United Nations. That's it. And NATO, a military organization, told another country, you do not use your air force because we tell you, if you do it, we're going to hit your assets in your country. So this is NATO, the defensive alliance. Now, defensive, did Libya attack NATO? Did Yugoslavia attack NATO? Or you do it preemptively? If you do something preemptively, can anybody else do it preemptively to you? And if you say no, case closed. Thank you very much for being with me again today. They got warned, and I'm guaranteeing you they will push. They have their jackals, they're paid, their agents pushing the narrative together with the media operatives. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.